Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. I hope this video finds you well, wherever it may find you. Yeah, man, we are back again for the House of the Dragon. After last week's episode, I was unsure what would happen when they had little Aaliyah out there almost exposed. But alas, I must say, House of the Dragon, straight up episode 3 might have solidified it as this show as the best show on TV for me right now. Let's get that out of the way. So yeah, first off, just want to say thank you very much for clicking on the video. Thank you for checking us out. It's Skip to This TL Double from one half of Skip the Tutorial podcast. My partner Brian's on here, and yeah, but also in the background we got a little bit of Raina's Quest little gameplay. And we'll get to some general radahn, but that's just because the podcast is primarily about gaming. But you know, the number one rule is we discuss what we like. And right now, I still want to discuss, and grateful that I can discuss House of the Dragon episode 3. Yeah, like I said, the first episode was great. Second episode, just personal preference. I just was concerned that I might fall off of it as, again, a newbie to the series. I missed the Game of Thrones both. You can find that out in the previous episodes with First Impressions episode 1 and episode 2. But yeah, so this spoilers, of course. Episode 3. To paint the picture really quickly, I actually, because of episode 2, it was good, but I was like, I don't know, I just consumed some She-Hulk and Lord of the Rings. There's a video done by Brian did that one, the previous video from here. So if you want to check out the initial impressions from the Lord of the Rings, you can check that out. But episode 3, I was just tired, man. I was like, I don't know, this whole fantasy world, and then where I come from, like white people shit. But I've been enjoying it. But I was like, man, I don't want to be disappointed. I actually been enjoying House of the Dragon. But out the gate, for me, fantasy lover of things. I enjoy fantasy stuff. It's just, again, it was something I could always connect with. But it's nice to have like options now. And out of the gate, Daemon on the dragon, burning up the crab eater's men. Perfect scene to start out. Nice action. It was really cool to like see the actual war playing out. Even though it was like a 2-year jump. And I mean, we'll get into a little bit more like some of the excellent writing I think that's going on in this show right now. But yeah, so basically it's like 2 years ahead, and the war's been going on. Daemon and Lord Corlys, the sea snake, have gone ahead and started the war, and they are losing. They are absolutely losing. But one reason why they are not losing, in my humble opinion, was Daemon. And that is something that is a really, really good part of this show. One of my favorite things about this show is, as ignorant as Damon is, and I referenced it in the previous episodes, do not remember him having many lines at all in this episode. But you will see a lot of thumbnails with Damon on there, and there's good reason for it, from the beginning to the end. But surprisingly, as far as just to kind of allude to the great writing, in my humble opinion, the main plot is really regarding the relationship between King Viserys and Rhaenyra. Millie Alcock, or Alcock, she hard as hell. Out of the gate, you can tell she's, for me at least, it still gives off the impression, even though it's been a couple of years, she's still mourning a bit of a mother. Lonely, disrespected heavily, even though she was, hailed as the heir. Now, 2 years later, after King Viserys is married, Queen Hightower, now her best friend, he actually has had a son. There's pressure, of course, of transitioning over from her being the heir to the natural order of things, which would be the male heir. But he must have got straight to it with the youngin, because that baby is around 2 years old, I believe, and she is pregnant again. You know what I'm talking about? So, which brings me to a quick point again. Skip the tutorial tribe. I got to shout out Aaron once again, our giveaway winner. He actually hit us up, or hit me up, and brought up a point that I'd almost forgot about, because this episode actually didn't have as many areolas or gluteus maximuses. It wasn't a lot of cheek clappery going on like in previous episodes. At least that's what I thought. But he pointed out a really good point of something that's in there that I didn't even notice. And yeah, maybe we could talk about that more towards the end as far as exactly the details on that. But I actually appreciated that it wasn't about the cheek clappery. Obviously, that was going on because King Viserys has a son now, and Queen Hightower, I think it's Alyssa Hightower, is pregnant again, who also actually was powerful in this episode to me, where I wasn't expecting it. I actually really enjoyed what I've seen as far as her growth, as far as the queen. Obviously, just a couple of years, in spite of the fact that her father, Otto Hightower, is a cold piece of work. Clearly, she is just navigating the situation in a lot of ways. I mean, masterfully, in consideration. Just thinking about to the previous episodes, how she just had those scars on her fingers. Just it's just little subtleties within the writing that I'm really, really, I am hooked. It's got me hooked. I'm infatuated with finding out more. I'm glad in a lot of ways too, coming into it as a newbie. I'm not, inundated with a lot of lore in this, surprisingly, which is also kind of rare. But yeah, so King Viserys too. That's another character. Actually, I was on the fence about how I was feeling about King Viserys moving forward in this story. But personal preference again. You can check it out in previous episodes as far as House of the Dragon 2. It was a good episode. It was just a position that he was put in. And I mean, it felt like, is he about to die? He can't even sit in the throne correctly without injuring himself and causing extreme bodily harm, where they're having to put maggots on his fingers. So, and he fell in love with a bitch that gave him a gargle. So it's like, I was just looking at him as a weak character, wasn't sure where he was going. But really, actually, King Viserys in this episode, he grew on me. He grew on me. Is he the best king? Probably not. But does he give a sense of the effort of trying to be a good man, a good father? Absolutely. And I mean, when he's sitting around getting drunk on the throne, it gave me some relatability, I guess. I don't know. I kind of felt him a little bit more, and just some of the choices that he was faced with, primarily in this one, was basically getting Rhaenyra married. I believe she's 10 plus 7 now, so whatever. I guess that means she's an adult, but I mean, signs of the time. But yeah, so that basically is the next step. I mean, he's had the son, and now he's getting pressured from all the political angles, which is still a great strong point as well. Yet again, the writing and just the story so far, it's just the pressure of the throne itself and what comes with it. And he's trying to be a good father by protecting her, basically stating that he doesn't want her to be alone, and also if it's a part of the position of being a princess, being the heir, being a king. He flat out said it. Like, I mean, I didn't want to get married, but I fell in love, and just look at me. They almost had me having, betting a 12-year-old Aaliyah, like, impersonator. I need to stop saying that, RP Aaliyah. But yeah, it was just like, if I've had to deal with this, of course, this is something I have to bring to you, and every person that I believe is a good choice, you are poo-pooing, if you will. And it's understandable why she would be poo-pooing these people. They're weirdos. I mean, obviously she wouldn't want any of them jumping up and down on her. You can't blame her, especially with just the strength of a character she is. All the disrespect she's taken, and still kind of handling it as stoically as I would anticipate a teenage uh, female first time heir. Well, not first time heir, but in her mind, and I would hope as well, she actually be sustainably the heir, which you know King Viserys actually addresses. But initially, it's all about her getting linked up with the best option to get to solidify the crown, if you will. And she's not really going for it, which like I stated, it makes sense. So while all the war is going on, this is going on with King Viserys and Rhaenyra. They're out for the hunt for the white deer or whatever, hart, whatever it is. And in the midst of the argument between her and her father, she runs off into the wilderness. I would have too. Fuck it. She wanders off into the wilderness. The knight that she chose, Sir something and such, I cannot remember his name right now. I'm still learning all the names. Chases after her, and then that little subplot starts to open up, and it's pretty obvious where almost drives you to hope that goes somewhere, because their chemistry and that acting, it's been that was good too. I like their interactions in the wilderness. In fact, there's a scene where she actually is attacked by a boar, which is what they're really hunting and trying to find this mythical white deer, I guess. And but yeah, she gets attacked by the boar, and they ultimately end up killing the boar. While they're killing the boar, King Viserys, after navigating, anybody that can come talk to him, trying to figure out a way to wed Rhaenyra, to the point where somebody suggested, yeah, it was Otto, that cold piece of work, boy, cold as ice, willing to sacrifice. He even suggested Rhaenyra should wed her younger brother, the 2-year-old. Viserys' face almost had me tickled as he just sat there and kept sipping. But yeah, it was to that point. So while he's dealing with that and being catered and being pointed in the direction of the king, and this is what we should do, and they end up catching a random big ass deer, whatever. I wish I could hunt, but yeah, and he gets this specially made spear from this strange suitor, random weirdo. They actually, he has a handler that's pointing out exactly where to stab the creature, and he barely can kill it. While that's going on, Rhaenyra has already killed the boar. She's got blood on her back. That's another scene I really enjoyed. It was a beautiful scene. Her and the knight sitting on their stags, on their steeds, on their Donkey Kongs, looking over the mountain, and there's the white whatever deer. So, and she chooses not to kill the deer, and that was just, I don't know, it was, again, the subtleties of the writing, impressive in it, and it carried me forward. Like I said, when I first started out, I wasn't even looking forward to watching the show. I was like, not that I wasn't looking forward to watching the show, but I didn't know if I would be able to get through it. But it's little scenes like that, before you knew it, I was almost done with the show, which actually, led into this. Like, so to kind of wrap that part of the storyline up, ultimately, the best advice King Viserys gives is to Rhaenyra once he speaks with Queen Hightower, which again, she navigates her role so well, and kind of subtly whispered in King Viserys' ear, like, hey, of course Rhaenyra wouldn't be or do anything to threaten the throne, but you gotta give her the choice. You can't just prostitute her out. You know what I mean? Like, this is hustle and flow, and you need a microphone. This, you gotta give her a choice. And once that kind of resonated with King Viserys, and he was able to get that across with Rhaenyra, I think that was just a powerful scene as well. That was another good example of just good writing, man. I'm gonna keep going back to that. It's been a long time since I watched the show. I had access to a show like this where I can legitimately say, hey, this is the best writing in the world right now to me. Right now, favorite show. But to get back to it, how we started with it. Okay, so all that's going on. they're finally settling it down, and it's starting to make sense. Because another thing that was whispered into King Viserys' ear is like, hey, you may want to send some resources to Daemon at this point. I mean, hey, it's getting bad out there from what I understand, which I believe might have been whispered in her ear from Otto, that cold piece of work. But yeah, just it ends up towards the end. It goes back to focusing on the war with Daemon, the warrior. I'm a warrior, Chris Hansen, a warrior. Daemon uh, was not playing around. Had an Andrew Tate moment. He's about to go full Tropic Thunder. This is how it happens to set the scene a bit. He is actually getting berated. No men are following him. He's the only one. He's going out there on his dragon trying to win the fight alone. The Crab King Eater, Crab whatever King guy has just a good war strategy. They are all bunkered into the Afghanistan caves. They can't get out. Or they won't get out. They're bunkered in there, and no matter how powerful the dragon is, they can't. If he dragon can't dig underground, so they're just waiting them out, and they're just losing supplies. The men are really like trying to figure out how to even sustain a little bit longer while the crabmen are waiting them out. And Damon, he hasn't really the whole show. I think the only thing he said was talk some shit at the beginning to tell Dara or whatever, the Crab King, to get out of the cave. Other than that, he hasn't said anything. While while the men and the troops are politicking, trying to figure out how to take over this cave land, little island place, wherever they're held up at, Damon comes back, runs into them talking shit. It quiets down, of course, but then they bring it up like to say, "Hey, okay, what are you doing? Like, why are you here? You were supposed to be the man. What about these Targaryens? Is so great. We can't even use the power of the dragon to stop anybody." Not only that, the word has been sent, and the messenger comes up to Daemon, hands off the word from his brother King Viserys. Hey, we're gonna go ahead and send out, some, I think it was like 10 ships, and we're gonna send out resources and reinforcements because we don't want to see you lose, which is something King Viserys probably should have did earlier, but he's finally grabbing his nuts, like he's finally starting to come back to himself and listen to wise counsel, or what he may think is wise counsel, I believe. But Daemon, one of my favorite scenes in all three shows so far. Because when I first saw it, I was like, wow, he's just a thug. He's just crazy. It don't make no sense. But Daemon proceeds to beat the ever-loving shit out of the messenger. Literally. Just beat the ever-loving shit out of him. To smithereens. To smithereens. Disrespectfully and accordingly. At that point, it hits me, okay, this guy is loco. Is he about to go Rambo mode? He's about to go full Tropic Thunder. And does he ever? Man, this man storms the beach. First fakes his surrender. It was a powerful scene too, because I wasn't sure. I was like, okay, what is going on here? Is he gonna surrender? Hell no, he not surrendering. This man is on a one-man army mission. I'm telling you, he went crazy. He went berserker. He's just killing crabs left and right, left and right. Before you know it, he's surrounded though. I mean, you can't take on 1,000 men alone. But as he's doing that, he gets surrounded. The army finally comes and kind of backs him up. He grabs his sword after getting hit with a few arrows. It was the arrows raining down. He got hit with a few. He's just under a shipwreck. It's like, okay, let me grab my sword. Let's go. He's not counting on his dragon. Isn't there? I couldn't figure that out, but I mean, I guess it's just, I mean, he was just hard. He went loco. And the next thing you know, it's a dragon comes out of nowhere, burns all the crab men in the area to smithereens. His army backs him up. They start to turn the tide on the entirety of everything after drawing out the enemy. That was the whole plan, getting a singular individual. That was the whole point of the surrender, to actually draw the men out. And as that's going on, as the insanity starts to ensue, as far as the land of Valerian finally taking control of the circumstance and situation, Damon ducks off into the cave. You can tell he finds the king crab, and he slices him into 2 pieces, drags his body out, guts everywhere, and just solidifies he is that dude. Man, okay, and this is just episode 3. Again, I didn't even get a chance to see the Game of Thrones stuff, but I'm completely hooked at this point. So it's just a quick recap. I appreciate you checking it out with me. And yeah, man, I'm continue to do this thing, I guess, is for the foreseeable future, as long as it's liked and everything. Oh yeah, back to what Aaron said. He did point out, even though it was a lack of cheek clappery in there were paintings on the wall with wolves fucking and all kinds of other stuff, man. So I put it in the thumbnail. But yeah, thanks again for listening. Just as I try to get better at this, any kind of feedback, comments are appreciated. Of course, you can check the podcast out on skiptutorialpodcast.com. But yeah, hope all is well. And as usual, stay humble, but don't take no shit. Yeah. Boy.